Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of this Echelon Cycling Podcast where, well, this week only two cycling nerds discuss what's been happening in the week of cycling and an eye ahead because Ewan is, I think, in some sort of Eurovision coma or something like that. But yeah, Patrick Blake, of course, is here, and we've been doing the recap race analysis over on Cycling Day and Extra channel from the Giro this week as well. But yeah, Patrick, we're not going to start with the Giro. The Lincoln Grand Prix is where you spent your Sunday, and yeah, how was that?
Oh, it's fantastic. That's why I didn't do, well, did you do a race?
No, I was cycling.
You didn't do a recap stage 9. It was a sprint anyway. Then I spent it in Grand Prix, had a couple of friends in the race, so it was really good to be out there. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, it's probably why I've got quite a red face, because I've been out in like the sun all day. It's yeah, it was a fantastic day, fantastic event, and yeah, St. Piran didn't win, actually, funnily enough. Usually they do. Alexander Richardson, he used to ride for Alpecin Fenix, or whichever iteration of that team he was a part of. He's won it 2 times, and yeah, he's the reigning victor from last year, but it was Matt Holmes, actually, who, of course, won up Willunga Hill, not all last year, but I don't know. It was a few years ago, maybe, but Matt Holmes won up Willunga Hill, but he won today. I'm not sure a part of which team. And yeah, St. Piran didn't even get a rider on the podium. Yeah, a person in third place was on my friend's team, which was cool to see. But yeah, it was a cool event, and yeah, I think it was really good to see.
Yeah, when you said he won to me, I was like, wait, isn't that the guy riding for Lotto Destiny? Obviously, in Denmark, there's a lot of guys from the World Tour kind of dips into like these A races, as you call it in Denmark. You see Mads Pedersen turning up and drags one of his friends all the way to the finishing line, and then his friend wins, which, yeah, make of that what you will. But yeah, Matt Holmes, it said he's retired since 2022. And yeah, that's quite interesting, that apparently retired and now a gravel racer maybe, and then turns up and wins the Lincoln Grand Prix, which I don't think, like you said, the competition's still high, and yeah, quite a scalp for him.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, actually, to see him doing so well. Like, he was just in like this kind of very stealthy, kind of quite all black outfit, and I was just like, who is this guy? And then my friend pointed out, I was like, oh, that's Matt Holmes, and I'm like, what? What is he doing here? And amongst all of this, yeah, it's a fantastic event. If if anybody out there has the opportunity to go watch Lincoln Grand Prix, I'd very much recommend it. When you went there last year, Scott, is that right?
For the national championships, I was actually surprised how nice Lincoln is.
It is. It's really like, if you get towards the centre part of it, where the cathedral is, it's really beautiful. And you could go up Marklegate, which is like this cobble climb, which the circuit takes in. It's really brutal. It's like 15% cobbles. It's honestly like you could send a one-day race around here, and it wouldn't be too outlandish to be like, this is Flemish.
The Juice High, obviously, that's the big pink elephant that we need to talk about. During the recaps, we kind of both agreed that it's been very exciting. If you look apart from the Maglia Rosa, Tadej Pogacar, 3-stage wins, as we know, winning on the time trial. Ghana, very surprised. That whole Ghana episode, that was quite funny. He was kind of like jokingly saying, oh, just slow down. And then his face just completely he almost turned pale because he realized what Tadej Pogacar had done. This was La Planche de Belfi. It was almost like Dumoulin's face back in the Tour then. And yeah, and when seeing the power data as well, that was quite a lot of power.
Yeah, and the fact that like Pogacar gained a minute in like that, just the final climb, the final 6K, was just insane. Because like you say, he was calculating, he saw Danny Martinez when he was like, oh, hang on a second. If Danny Martinez has taken 30-ish seconds on me up this climb, what is Pogacar going to do? Oh no. And he kind of was like, oh, well, maybe I'm at risk here. But it has been a really entertaining week. I mean, I'm just looking at what's happened from stage 3 through to stage 9 the last week, and people might argue that the most boring, in quotation marks, stage could have been up to Prati de Tivo, possibly, with the just Pogacar sprinting it with 200 meters to go up against Danny Martinez, Ben O'Connor, yada yada. People could argue that was the least entertaining stage because I haven't seen the full ins and outs of today's stage 9. But I saw Wilson fight late attacks, and that was quite exciting. Even Melia's win in stage 3, where there was that late attack by Pogacar, Milan's win in stage 4, that was such a high-speed sprint, it was just exhilarating. The breakaway victory, like the late breakaway victory by Benjamin Thomas, Pelayo Sanchez on the gravel stage, Pogacar winning on stage 7, which is just insane. Yeah, like the TT day, that was really entertaining. There has just been a lot of intrigue in this year, and I think they've done a fantastic job, like for route organisers, that is.
Yeah, for sure. It is just a bit of a shame that the Maglia Russa's kind of been killed. If there wasn't Tadej Pogacar, that would be one of the tightest battles that we've seen in the GC for a long time. And yeah, Patrick, on that note, who do you think is going to be the second place? Geraint Thomas coming a bit short in the time trial, which was a bit surprising for everyone. And yeah, then we see in the Manta stage as well, Dani Martinez has looked really, really good. And I would love to see the Colombian return to never been on the podium, but we haven't had a Colombian on a podium since when? Egan Bernal?
Yeah, that's true. God, who do I think is going to do it? I mean, yeah, like you got O'Connor in there as well. I think he has gone a little bit under the radar because on Europa he just blew up quite big time and actually hasn't been on the top 10 of the GC until the Plata de Thibau stage, really, where he really came into it. And yeah, I mean, he looked good there. I think if he learns from his mistakes of not following Pogacar and if he plays it maybe a little bit more cool, he's 39, he's 41 seconds behind Geraint Thomas at the moment, and then that means that he's like 59 seconds behind Martinez. It's all pretty fine margins still in the first week with the harder terrain still to come. Brooks can kind of throw him in there. He's going to lose like another minute in that next TT pretty much as like a minimum, I'd say, no matter how many of those stupid TT helmets does Melissa Bike throw at the situation.
I think the funniest moment in the whole first week was seeing him getting interviewed with that monstrosity. It's just like an alien being interviewed.
Yeah, it literally is. It does look like it's from the Alien film, doesn't it? Or like Independence Day or something like that. I think Dani Martinez has been the biggest surprise for me, but I do slightly wonder about how he's going to do later into the race. Whether he's going to start cracking because he's not really done a 3-week effort before. Maybe this is a little bit of bias, but I think that Ben O'Connor might be my second place favourite at the moment. Just because, maybe that's just because he's on my Bella Games team and I'm just trying to manifest it. I don't know. That might just be the case. But I think that he was, I think, second strongest on Europa. I think that the sprint basically on Plata de Thibau, he was third there. I think that suited Dani Martinez anyway a bit more. I think maybe when you get further into the race, the Decathlon, the strong team like Valentin Palipenta looked super strong the other day, and Baudouin's looking insane as well. Aurelian Palipenta, Van Dlaan, they've got a really strong team. I think they could be a team to really put pressure on because we see Martinez and Thomas maybe get a little bit more isolated a bit easy. I don't really know. So, yeah, I'm kind of thinking O'Connor because he was actually pretty good in that TT. And, yeah, so I'll go with O'Connor for my second place. Maybe out of, like, more wishful thinking than logic. But what about you? Who do you think is...
My second place is Tadej Pogacar because Brooks is winning this.
Oh gosh, I forgot about this ridiculous prediction it was.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's... Well, we were talking about this as well. Okay, I'll come to my... I hope my the second place is Dani Martinez, but I am a bit worried that he will be more isolated because your favorite Florian Lipovic isn't there anymore, and that team is not very strong in the mountains, despite Maximilian Schachmann giving a very good turn. It's just not enough. And I think that's a bit of a shame for Daniel Martinez because if he had like 1-2 guys with him, it could be a very interesting battle between Bora and Ineos himself. of course, being a former Ineos guy, but doing better than Geraint Thomas right now. I'm going to say Daniel Martinez. But that white jersey competition, it's already been worn by, I think Antonio Tiberi hasn't worn it yet. When Luke Plapp's worn it, Brooks is wearing it now after Plapp lost it on the Pranto di Thibau. He lost like 20 minutes, the Australian, unfortunately. We've kind of been dabbling in him being a GC prospect. Luke Plapp, such big hype from the track. That podium finish on the UAE Tour last year ahead of Adam Yates kind of made everyone be like, oh, wait a minute. But yeah, didn't quite happen on Pranto di Thibau.
I think this can pretty safely say, but unless Luke Plapp has like a massive change in physiology or training or whatever, I just don't think he's a GC rider, to be honest. In a Grand Tour setting, maybe he could do it in a week long, maybe a bit like McNulty, I guess. But I just don't see it in a Grand Tour, to be honest with you. Straight up how I see it. I think that he's just good for breakaways. I think that could be his kind of thing. He looked pretty good in that one back gravel stage the other day. You know, he's just very versatile, and I think that could really be his kind of area of expertise that he should try and get into. I just don't think that. I think trying to forge him into a GC rider is just going to be a waste of time. I would much rather him not spend all that time being like, oh, I'm going to try and fine-tune being a GC rider and, you know, gain every second I can and blah, 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 and work really hard on this TC. I'd like, dude, just sack all that off and just be a breakaway rider. It's like Kemna. Like, people like Kemna because he's a breakaway rider. Just be that. Be the Australian Kemna. He is very much like Kemna, actually, when you think about it. Decent climber, decent time trial, gets into moves. You know, he's kind of like, he is very much like Kemna. But yeah, I don't see him being anything in the white jerseys now. He dropped too much time.
That's it. It's Tiberi versus Brooks for this. And yeah, I mean, who do you think's got it? Visma Leasebike lost another rider. Laporte, the European champion. Robert Hessink was the first one. So the dinner table at the Visma Leasebike team is starting to thin out a bit. Does that worry you on that front or not with Brooks? He still got Attila Valter. It didn't look too strong though.
Yeah, he's just had a couple of crashes, hasn't he? It's just not been going his way for Valter. He's had some bad luck in this race, which is so bad to see. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Like, I think it was in the commentary the other day I was watching, it was like Jonathan Vogt was saying, like, Visma Leasebike last year were like the team, weren't they? They were the best team in the world, and now look at them. It's like they're not in this race. They're not even like in the pecking order anywhere. Pretty much. Well, maybe in the sprints, but like, you know, they've lost. The team's just kind of like a bit flaky. But saying that, Bahrain don't really. Sorry,
it's a bit hard, don't you think? Alex Brooks, like 21 years old. Crashes out, Vingegaard recovery. Like, Roglic left the team, so there is kind of.
But it just shows a lack of depth in the team.
That's
like,
true.
if your team is wiped out by two riders going out in Wout and Jonas, it's like if Tadej and Adam Yates were to just crash, UAE, I think, would be stronger because I think they've got greater strength in depth than Visma Leasebike do. And I think that's kind of like where Visma Leasebike has fallen apart because, like, Jonas goes down, the golden boy. It's like, oh my word, like, this is panic stations, you know? But, I mean, going back to Brooks versus Tiberi, I mean, Bahrain aren't necessarily in a better situation. Like, Caruso's underperforming big time. They don't have the guys around Tiberi either. It's like, neither of them are in a particularly better situation. I'd say that Brooks, because he was up there more in the Vuelta last year, and he did look pretty good on those longer climbs, of which we haven't had too many of. I'd say that I'm still favouring Brooks, even if he is going to ship at least a minute to Tiberi, maybe a minute and a half in that next TT. I'd say that Brooks, I have more faith in over the longer climbs, which are still to come.
Well, do you still think Tadej Pogacar is going to win the Giro? You might as well look in this part of the Giro chat. And, actually, we haven't talked about the sprinters because that seems very competitive this year once again.
Yeah, it does. Milan seems to have a bit of a increasing kind of chokehold on it. I guess he's got a win, 2 second places and a 5th. I think he has. So he's doing incredibly well. He's like the most consistent sprinter. Groves has been very impressive considering how he hasn't been that great this year, in my opinion. He's got, saying that he's got like a 2nd place and a 7th place. Coy got that win in stage 9. He's also got a 9th, a 4th, and a 6th. So he's kind of like 2nd most consistent. I'd say, Milan, Groves, and Coy are the main guys, which I suppose are names which we were highlighting at the start, especially Coy and Milan. I think Groves is the one which has really come out of the woodwork a bit. Obviously, we lost Vinny in this week as well. That's very sad to see. And maybe we were expecting Piffy to be up here as well, Merlier possibly to be up here as well. But I think Merlier's lack of climbing finesse isn't helping him at the moment, where he really needs those flat sprints to really gain back on the others. But you know what? When those stages do come, Merlier is deadly. Like, he is so good at those, but you throw in a couple of those lumps and he really starts to ship some time. And I think he also crashed during the TT, which I didn't see, but apparently I've seen somewhere that he crashed during that time trial. It didn't seem to affect him today too much because he won the intermediate sprint, so I think he's probably fine. But yeah, it is a really good fight for Ciclamino. Yeah, it's probably one of the best sprinter fights we've had in a while.
I mean, you said Tim Merlier is basically a first-week specialist. That's why he picked him out this page one. Jakobsen, for me, has been a bit of... together with... There's been so many crashes. Jakobsen's been caught up in crashes. And I think it's a big shame because it wasn't like the Giro isn't his main goal. The main goal is the Tour. And getting injured here... it's like you don't want to see this. First season for the team as well. Yeah, I mean, DSM's just had a horrid time at this first week with the Giro, with Bardet as well. Bardet throwing everything in that Thibau, and yeah, just didn't happen. So DSM, I think, are going to be licking their wounds and potentially they can get back and get a good result in week 2 or week 3.
Yeah, hopefully they can. I think Bardet... Yeah, and I always said this in a recap, but he's kind of in two minds. Where does he try and keep chipping away at GC by just hanging on to the GC group because he's feeling better than he was at the start, where he just lost quite a lot of time on stage 1? Or does he just keep on doing a Hail Mary into the breakaway every time there might be a chance to try and gain back like 5-6 minutes in one big chunk? I think he could definitely do a bit of both. I mean, also sad times for people who DNF. Alexei Lutsenko didn't start stage 9. Podcast favourite, obviously. So I know. So Lutsenko, because he was dropped yesterday on Thibau, wasn't he? So
maybe there was a reason for him not waiting on Thibau then again.
I don't know, because he hasn't crashed. So I'm just guessing must just be like illness. He dropped out of Romandy as well, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to guess it's going to be a bit of illness. So Fortunato it is, I guess. But he could definitely still get a top 10. So it's not all over for Astana, I don't think. Fortunato's been very impressive so far.
Well, we might as well move the conversation on. We'll get to the Tour of Hungary or the Tour of Hungary. Nevertheless, Jonas Vingegaard, there was good news seeing him on a bike for the first time again. He gave kind of like a message via the team that it seemed like recovery was going well, still aiming for the Tour, but it still has like issues and he wants to get ready for the Tour apparently. But yeah, I'm not seeing that as happening, to be honest. Many people saying like just skip the Tour. If you have to go to something this year, go to the World Tour.
I think that makes sense, but it's also, I mean, we touched on this a couple of weeks ago when it kind of happened, and I'm still kind of like, do I still think that Jonas should go to the Tour even if he's not in absolute tip-top shape, just because he is the defending champion and maybe he can ride into the race and get better as it goes along? And you got a lot of back-heavy stages that, you know, he could build into the race. And because Pogacar, I mean, we'll wait to see 2 weeks' time how Pogacar's riding the end of his Giro, and whether he's kind of trying to take it as easy as he can. But, you know, is it possible that Jonas could be competitive in the Tour? I mean, if he's out already, it's possible, but he's already missed one training camp at altitude. And we saw how Pogacar's crash last year in Liège impacted his ability to do well at the Tour. So I think that Jonas doing well in the Tour is dependent on two things. Number one, how well he can get his training done in the next, 2 months? Not even. 7 weeks, I think it is, until the Tour starts. That's not a lot of time when you put it in weeks. That sounds quite scary. And secondly, it's dependent upon how Pogacar can recover from the Giro and go for the Tour. Those are the two factors which I see being the most instrumental. But yeah, the Tour's really it hits off with a bang, doesn't it? It goes up that San Luca climb used in Giro dell'Emilia. Is that right? So Giro
yeah, that's not a time that you want to get take it easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can't take it easy up there. If Jonas isn't in good form going into the race, then he's going to get dropped hard. It'll be like Bardet and the Rensman for the first 2 stages of the Giro this year. If you rocked up with Jonas and said, we're going to send you anyway, and then he ends up losing 5 minutes in the first 2 stages, there's no way that he's going to get into the breakaway, because unless he's 50 minutes down. Because why would you let Jonas Vingegaard, a person who's won the Tour twice, into a breakaway? You wouldn't trust it, would you? And UAE definitely have the squad in the Tour to shut him down, because they've got this Avengers Assemble style, team. It's just insane. So should Jonas go to the Tour? I'm not convinced. I think maybe you could. Would I send him to the Dauphiné or something, or the Tour de Suisse, just to see how he's going? I'd be tempted to, and then use that as a bit of a yardstick, because otherwise you're just going to be basing it all upon, all just training, going into the Tour and making a decision based upon your numbers and training. But maybe he might go to a warm-up race, or maybe they're just actually, there's no shot. Going to a race is just going to implement the risk of crashing. No point in doing that. Sack all of it off and just go for the Vuelta.
Yeah, maybe in 2025. Some people were saying it's also building up the confidence again after having quite a very serious crash. And the difference between him and Tadej Pogacar, when you look at his Tadej Pogacar's preparations last year, it was only a wrist. I'm saying only he could still get on the turbo. Jonas, what was it? Punctured lung, broken ribs, broken collarbone. It's not exactly the same thing. And it was almost the similar time that they did it in a way as well.
It's the time away, isn't it? In a way, because Wout's injuries weren't as bad. Wout's got this chance of going to the Tour and having that very 2022, free roll, which was so exciting to see in 2022. Maybe he could do that again. That's really exciting for this Melissa bike. But yeah, Jonas, just having the time off. Like you say, drawing comparisons to Pogacar's injury last year, it's on a different level of injury. It's just not, he's had a forced time off and then hindered preparation, no altitude camp in May. And they said that if he's not 100% for the Tour, then they're not going to send him for the Tour. And I just don't see how somebody who has missed weeks of training and the training camp at altitude could be in 100% form. I just don't see it happening in 7 weeks, given that he got on the bike this week for the first time. 7 weeks. If you had an injury and somebody said to you, us as amateurs, okay, you got 7 weeks and I want you to be good enough to compete in a really hard race, like a National A race, against some really tough competition, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to do it in 7 weeks. I'd be like, are you joking? That's ridiculous. How do you think I'm going to catch up with everybody else? So I don't think that realistically it will happen, but he'll go to the Tour. But part of me would still quite like to see it, because I think that he is just such a sensational talent that maybe he could pull it out of the bag somehow.
Yeah, I think he should just skip the Tour, focus on the Tour of Denmark that he has never won. He finished second in 2019. He has something to kind of go after, and then go to the World to win that and become first ever Dane to do that, and then maybe turn up to Zurich and win that. The World Championships again. Yeah. I think that's happening.
He could do that. He could do.
He's not really a one-day race, is he? The Drone Classic isn't really the same as the World Championships.
That's true, but maybe not the road race, but could he do a TT? Like, he's a fantastic time trialist for his size. Like, I think he could definitely. Like, who would Denmark send instead of him? Bjerg or Asgreen?
Yeah.
Yes, like, why would you not send? Why would Jonas not want to give it a go? I can understand the road race, all right. It's very different to what he's used to doing. Don't know how it fits into the Welter, but TT, why not? It's like an hour effort. You can push out an hour effort.
Maybe he wants to go to the Olympics as well for the TT.
For the TT, I don't know. Is that going to be too flat though? I think the Zurich one is.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like the experience being at the Olympics now. Maybe he's not going to go to the Tour. Just get some new experience. If he does care about that, I don't know. I think he just cares about the Tour, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd hope that he'd care. I'd like to see him at the Olympics doing a TT, even if it wasn't like the most competitive thing. It's like Pogacar did the World's TT last year, and he didn't do very well, but he did it anyway.
The last time Jonas represented Denmark was in Innsbruck, the World Championships in 2018 in the the under-23 road race, the one won by Mark Hirschi. And since then, he's not been at the at the World Championships for Denmark. So I think we're kind of both saying the same thing, that the team as well. We don't really want to see him lose 5 minutes on the first mountain stage.
Yeah, I think I'm saying I'd like to see it, but I don't realistically think that I will see it.
Tour of Hungary happened this week as well. Wins from Mark Cavendish, Thibau Nye, winning the overall as well. Did you watch much of this? I mean, having the Giro at the same time is kind of a lot of racing, so it's like cramming in another 1 week race as well is a bit, I didn't really have time to watch it other than seeing a few clips here and there.
Yeah, I saw the clips, really. It was more like a footnote on the week. No offense, Tour of Hungary. Obviously, the big highlight. Pierre Baguette had brought Peter Sagan. Yeah, I mean, the stage winners, Welsford, Cavendish. God, Tour de France stage win highlight. Here we come. Then 2 stage wins from Thibau Nye and Wout Poels winning stage 5. It was kind of like Poels and Buchmann were both here proving a point for not being selected for the Giro, which was kind of cool to see. Cavendish won that stage after Dylan Groenewegen almost killed Sam Welsford for some reason. Did you see that? He was like headbutting him in the sprint. It was awful. I do not get how Groenewegen almost killed Fabio Jakobsen and just hasn't learned his lesson in the lead-outs. It's just absolutely despicable behaviour. But he goes and just bashes people. And it's like, Dylan, you're literally my guy. Like, if that guy goes into a barrier, he's going to get hurt. And you just do not care. It's Tour of Hungary, calm down. It's not like a Tour de France sprint where, there's more on the line, contracts are on the line. It's the Tour of Hungary. It's like is it a 1.1? Or even is it? So it's a 2.0. Chill out, It's not that big. It's not that deep. I think the most impressive thing out of this week for me was Thibau Nye, easily. Just because he won 2 stages fairly easily. He came 4th on stage 5 and he won the overall. Like, insane performance. 21 years old. Rather disappointingly, he doesn't have like a very stacked race schedule for the rest of this year. Tour of Norway, the also plays Tour de Suisse, so we will see him at another World Tour level stage race again in Switzerland, where he obviously did very well in Romandy last time he was in there. The Tour of Wallonie, which is like his bread and butter, and then the Britannia Classic. But yeah, what did you reckon to Thibau Nye? I mean, we talked about him before during cyclocross, but I think this definitely must turn some more heads.
Yeah, he took he took something really impressive last year as well. Was it Tour of Norway or?
Yeah, I think it was Tour of Norway. Yeah, he took a stage win at Tour of Norway, and I think wasn't he going up against like Van der Poel in the Bauwau's Belgian Tour? Yeah, he was. Stage 2 of Bauwau's Belgian Tour, Van der Poel won, but Thibau Nye was second now.
I don't know where he fits in. I feel like a Flesh Wallone win is true down the line, but yeah, I don't know, a classics rider kind of thing. Big win here. It's a 1 week stage race, winning it already. Little Trek are in great form, so this is just another another accolade to this amazing 2024 season they've had already.
If I'm to draw a comparison as to who I think he's similar to, I think he could be a bit like Alaphilippe, like an Alaphilippe regen. Because he won that stage in Romandy, I guess you could call it a mountaintop finish from a breakaway. You know, he's good at these punchy stages, but he can climb surprisingly well. He can do decent in a flat sprint, but not like super fast. So I think he is very much like Alaphilippe from 2015 or something like that, which is great to see because that was a really exciting time to be kind of following Alaphilippe's career progression. That's where I see Thibau Nye really being, and I think that's really cool. I think he will fit very well into that Ardennes team. I mean, what they got, like, it was really just like Skell most of this year, I suppose. I mean, Ciccone wasn't really in action there, and where he was in 2023. So I reckon he'd fit in as a good Ardennes co-leader, at least for the moment. Maybe moving into pure leadership, depending on how well he does, but I definitely think co-leadership with Skelmosov would be pretty realistic.
Yeah, definitely a face of the future. And yeah, well, you mentioned him finishing behind Mathieu van der Poel. Obviously, Mathieu van der Poel was competing against his dad in cyclocross, which is quite funny. And it was quite funny. A few years ago, Thibau Nye, when he was 17, a bit of a mini viral cycling sensation because he beat Mathieu van der Poel in a 1 kilometer time trial cyclocross event, which I think was just a bit of fun. But nevertheless, he was showing power close to the king himself. I mean, we'll see what Thibau Nye can do, but it definitely seems like they're not rushing him, they're nurturing him, they're not just throwing him into a Grand Tour straight away.
Yeah, I think Nye will be very exciting for the future. I'm glad they're not putting him immediately into a Grand Tour. I mean, he's 21, he's still interested in like the cyclocross as well. I reckon he'll just be a steady progression. I think we're just all quite spoiled in a way with having such young talent brought into the World Tour immediately, like your Pogacars and Uzos, Remcos and stuff like that. They all just get brought in really quickly, and you get to see them at World Tour events all the time. So we'll just have to be a bit more patient with Thibau Nye. I think that's just the case.
One rider that we haven't really spoken about, but almost could have, if I had the balls to do it, could have made me, made us a millionaire, basically. Nairo Quintana. This is not sponsored by any betting shop. Don't gamble on cycling. It's ridiculous. It's the worst sport to gamble on, I think. But we found odds. So we had put money on it, him winning up the presidency, it would have been $1 million. I didn't do it. I didn't put any money on it. And then I was out cycling and saw the horrific sight of Nairo Quintana in the breakaway. And my heart sank a bit. But then it didn't happen. And but Patrick, what is happening with Nairo Quintana? This man is a Giro winner, a Welter winner, obviously had that suspension a year out, didn't do like Miguel Angel Lopez, dropped down to a continental level, then returned now to Movistar. And with Movistar, he's got a 1-year contract, but judging by his results this year, I mean, the Colombia Tour or Tour of Colombia and here in the Giro, it hasn't really been great. It's not old Nairo man, to say the least.
These performances are not good. Just straight up, they're just not. I'm trying to think realistically about what's going to happen with Nairo. He is down to do the Vuelta, where maybe he can do something there and encourage Movistar to sign him on for another year. Realistically, I see Nairo probably not doing... I don't know. I'm not sure what's not working, but clearly stuff just isn't working with him. So kind of realistically, I see that he'll probably drop down to like Pro Conti or something next year with like Burgos, Kaya Rural,
Polti.
Polti, Bardiani, just one of those. That's where I realistically see this happening, and then he'll just like fade into insignificance. I'm very sorry, Nairo fans. That's just kind of how I realistically see it happening. The results just aren't adding up here. He's not getting the results. You can't just ride the tide of nostalgia to contracts.
Israel Premier Tech like doing that with Chris Froome. So Froome and Nairo in the same team. that would be unheard of in 2013, but yeah, in 2025 it could be a reality. Well, fourth at the individual time trial early in the year, 26th in the road race, 21st overall in that Tour of Colombia. I think he crashed out on the Catalunya, but he was sitting 32nd in that race. And right now on the rest day, he's sitting 31st in the rankings right now. I don't see him doing anything really in the Giro because he was in a perfect position here in that break. And the likes of Valentin Panapantre was dropping him. So if you can't get rid of him, how are you expecting to take a breakaway mountain stage win? I know he was saying he's thinking, it was about the breaks. That was what his goals were in the Giro. So it's not like he went in and said, I'm going to win the Giro, I'm going to get a podium. He was going in with the breakaway mentality. But yeah, he's 34. But I mean, in cycling, that seems to not really be a factor. Geraint Thomas.
Yeah, I'm not sure if age is really a big impact. And I said it last week, that age seems to have done this thing with cycling where people who are really young can do really well and people who are older can do really good as well. It's not like you just have this weird physiological peak window anymore, whereas like you need to be between the ages of 27 to 32 in order to win a Grand Tour. That is old guard talk nonsense, right? That just doesn't make sense anymore. Forget that. That's literally 40 years ago thinking. Nairo could still do well. Like, G doing well at 38 is a testament to that. Maybe it's just a matter of he had a year off and he's just still trying to get his way back into things a little bit, kind of, just warming up. Or maybe it is just that he's lost it and, he's just not as good as he used to be. Which would be very sad to see because he has been one of the best climbers in the world at times. And he's won the Giro, for goodness sake, He's not some rubbish pack fodder. Like, he has been a really good name at times, but that's just not where he is at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's true. The golden boy of Colombia, I would say, that Egan Bernal kind of stole his thunder with winning that tour in 2018. But there have also been other races. Flèche du Sud was won by Pim Ronhard, the cyclocross rider. This is a 1 week stage race. It's kind of like a talent scouting exercise in a way, but he won it 2 years in a row now. The cyclocross rider who's attached with the Trek team. And we also have the Tour of Basque Country for the women. And what happened there, Patrick?
Well, we are right back to SD Works Pro Time doing SD Works Pro Time things. Because they won every single stage at the GC, and that's kind of just what happened. Misha Bladevold won the first 2 stages. The first day was from a sprint of of a relatively large size, to be honest with you. Stage 2, there was kind of like some later attacks, and she managed to hold on. And then stage 3, Demi Vollering won ahead of Felita de Jong. And Misha Bladevold came in 3rd place as well. So, it was a week of just SD Works doing SD Works things. Bladevold's kind of one of these weird ones. She is the European champion, of course. She won that fair and square. But she's had a very quiet year so far. But then just in this race, just boom, just seemingly just out of nowhere. She was just a domestique only like a week ago at the women's welter. And now she's just like doing insane. So this is just a thing with SD Works Pro Time. Sometimes forget that on the spot, but they can just come out of nowhere, some of their riders, and just do really well because they've just got such strength and depth that other teams don't have, where some of their secondary leaders can go and get success. Like, I thought this looked like a week for me that Reusa would have just like soloed off at random points and just nobody would have chased her back. That's just what SD Works Pro Time can do because they are just the best women's team.
But nevertheless, finishing on the World Tour rankings, the update that we normally do, and Patrick, we're seeing ever more UAE are just soaring away with this competition unchallenged. completely this time, even more than years before. But any movers that you're kind of intrigued by this week?
I think Lidl Trek are doing really well because Milan's stage wins are helping out, because he gets, I can't remember how many you get for a stage win. I think about like 120 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But also, of course, Thibau Nye in Tour of Hungary getting a good load of points there. Decathlon have moved up in this ranking based upon last year's positioning. But yeah, I can't really think of really what they've done this week. I think Kuznetsov won a race. It was just like a French Cup race, I think it was. I can't remember exactly what the name of it was. I'm sorry, French Cup races. Sometimes they all just kind of blur into one to me sometimes. Decathlon moving up. Alpecin have moved up. I think, that might be largely like Groves and stuff. But yeah, I think that people are largely where I'd expect them to be. Lotto Destiny, didn't Lee take a win this week? The Circuit de Wallonie, 1.1, I think he won. So they're doing really well. Like, when you look at the rankings, Lotto Destiny are right up there, like in the top 10. And they're like they're the highest ranked pro race teams. So they're set to move up. Israel look pretty set to move up. I mean, the teams of the biggest worry are Astana. They are the lowest ranked World Tour team at the moment, along with Cofidis. But Astana are lower than UnoX, they're lower than Israel Premier Tech, and they're lower than Lotto Destiny. So they're not in a good way at the moment. And they're only 100-ish points ahead of Tudor. Like, Astana losing Lutsenko for their top 10 GC in this Giro is not good news for them. They need Fortunato to perform.
Yeah, I didn't even know what they're going to do with Lutsenko. Are they going to send him to the Tour? But then they have the Cavendish project as well. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Astana Kazakhstan. And I mean, if they fall off the World Tour, a team that's won all the Grand Tours as well in their history, not a lot of teams have done that. It would be very sad. Like Manchester United getting relegated.
This might sound weird to say, but I wouldn't send Lutsenko to Grand Tours. I think the best way to get like a point farming system is probably to send him to stage races to get top 10 in GC there, and also just one-day races. Try and find those Giro d'Abruzzo's of the world and use those as the Lutsenko farming areas, because he does so well in those sorts of races. I'm not sure which kind of races those would be, but that's the kind of vibe which I get from Lutsenko. He needs to win those kind of 2.1s kind of races, is how I see it. And I just don't think the Grand Tours is maybe for him, to be honest. Like, doing a GC there, I just don't think maybe it's the best use of Lutsenko.
Race, Tour of Slovenia, these kind of races, Tour of Hungary.
Exactly.
You're right. This is his jam. He should do it.
He needs to go to, exactly, like .pro, like stage races, like Slovenia, and win those, or come top 3.
But anyways, we might as well finish with our favorite segment, Rider of the Week, and Patrick, who's been lighting your fire this week. Do you want to do a Rider of the Week and a Rider of the Giro so we don't mix the two?
Okay, right, cool. Okay. My Rider of the Week is going to be... screw it. Matt Holmes for winning Lincoln Grand Prix. Retiring in 2022. For people who don't understand, it's just like there's so much St. Piran dominance in the British scene that when you get a race where they don't just like lock out the podium, it's quite refreshing. And that's not a slight at St. Piran. I'm just saying I just like a bit of variation, and seeing Matt Holmes come back was like really cool to see. In terms of the Giro, again, a bit of a weird... No, I'm just going to keep it. I'll keep it. It's because I went so rogue there. I'll keep it simple. My Rider of the Week from the Giro is Tadej Pogacar. Nice and simple, because he's won 2 stages. That TT performance was insane. And he's just been so just interesting, to be honest. He's just been so entertaining on like the off-bike stuff as well, like the videos and stuff. He's just produced some quite memeable moments. And for that, I salute you, Tadej.
Yeah, I'll say Thibau Nye as Rider of the Week because, big fan, and seeing him take a 1-week stage race, I like the Tour of Hungary. a race that we've seen won by Eddie Dunbar, I think, and Ben Toller as well. And hopefully this will boost his confidence a bit, and we'll see him at a Grand Tour soon, maybe the World Tour. And as far as the Giro, I kind of want to say Danny Martinez, but no, I'm going to say Peleo Sanchez, because being in a break with Luke and Julian Philippe and still pulling it off, he's a neo-pro in terms of the World Tour, coming to Movistar after having a good season last year with Bogus PH. And then putting a faith in a very young Spanish rider. I thought that was very good. There's probably someone we should have said that I can't quite think of, but yeah. But anyways, with that, really well. Say again.
Yeah, he did really well there. Like, he was not the name I was expecting to win out of that. I really thought that was going to be Alaphilippe.
Yeah, true. Is there anyone we missed that could have potentially been in?
I mean, Milan, maybe. Won a stage. Benjamin Thomas.
Oh, true.
I mean, they all would have been kind of rogue choices, to be honest. I think we picked some sensible ones.
But anyways, with that, that's basically it for episode 68. Hopefully we'll have Ewan out of his coma from Eurovision back next week. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to help us out. And we are, of course, also available over on Spotify, and check out us on Twitter as well. So all that is in the description below. And if you want to see more of Patrick and me, we are doing the recap race analysis over on the Cycling Dane Extra channel. So check that out as well. But with that, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week.